If you have felt a shift lately, this episode is for you. In Chinese astrology, the energetic new year begins today, the time of release, February 17th, and we are entering a fire horse year. But you do not need to know anything about Chinese astrology to feel when a new cycle starts. A lot of people are noticing restlessness, urgency, creative energy, and also a little overwhelm. So today I am joined by Anna Tsui, who helps people understand energetic cycles through spiritual knowledge and past life patterning, but in a grounded, real world way. She makes it super easy to understand, and she's breaking down things that I know I haven't heard anything about when it comes to this fire horse year. This is really about how do you orient towards this energy and make the most of it without burning out. It's also how to understand how you individually are going to move through this. How might fire horse energy show up in your work, in your business, in your life, and how to work with it instead of fighting it. We're also going to talk about certain skills, themes, or patterns from the past that we're seeing resurface right now. This tends to happen during large energetic shifts. And so we're going to break down how to use that information without giving your power away completely to astrology or spirituality and working with your innate gifts. Think of this episode as a recalibration. I know that you are going to love Anna's energy because it is so practical, so grounded, and I can't wait for you to get into it. Welcome to Confessions of a Spiritual Entrepreneur. I'm Samantha Fackler, your host, business mentor, brand strategist, and someone who believes that building a business is one of the most spiritual journeys you can take. I am here to help you grow your business through proven strategies and aligned practices, so ultimately you can make more money while being in a state of ease. Right. Welcome to the show, Anna Tsui, spiritual coach and content creator. I am so grateful you're here.
Thanks for having me, Samantha. This is the perfect day to do it because it feels like I can feel the fire era energy around us.
Yeah, we're recording right before the Fire Horse year kicks in, February 17th. And I think we should just launch straight into it because I have seen you absolutely explode on the internet. I mean, you have celebrities liking your posts. You have been sharing so much aligned and intuitive content on fire horse energy, what to expect this year, even past life superpowers. So we're going to dig into all of that today. But let's start with the basics. So, in very plain language, how would you describe the fire horse year that's coming up?
So the fire horse year is a year of, if you just take the imagery, it's a horse and they mean almost like wild stallion energy, right? So it's like wild, it's uninhibited, it's pure intuition, it goes, right? And then you take that and you take fire, the element of fire, it just multiplies that. We've experienced so much just in January alone, it's going to get more. There's going to be more changes, more shifting. And it's really a time where it's not all kind of like bad news and intensity because, and we'll talk about this, is like, how do you kind of coax the fire? How do you fuel the fire? How do you manage it? You can absolutely do that. But it's a year where basically the element of fire has to do with your heart, which, as we know, our hearts have to do with our passions and connecting with what is truly aligned with us. And so, for those of us who've done a lot of inner work, this will be probably one of our best years yet. And you will get, if you're doing the aligned thing that you know you're meant to do versus like pushing the thing that you're like, oh, this used to work. Why can't I just make this relationship work or this business model work or whatever? If you're doing the aligned thing, which always feels scary, you're going to get crazy wins. Just like my crazy social media blow up. My friends call it a blow up, not a glow up. It just, I mean, I think I had 138,000 new followers organically within 2 weeks, which is insane. I
Crazy.
never, that was not in my bingo card, right? But that's fire energy. So you don't really know how it's going to show up, but if you keep on going down the path of what sparks your interest, of what lights you up, it's going to catch fire in the best way.
Yeah. And I want to dig into that a little bit because, as you just said, you gained 138,000 followers in 2 weeks. That's bonkers. Right before that happened, what was happening for you?
So I had been off Instagram for a while. So if you look at my feed, it's like where was she for a few years, right? Which is also another thing to say, like it doesn't make sense, okay? Whatever you're doing, as long as it feels good to you, it doesn't need to make sense. But I had been posting on TikTok for a year or two, just kind of talking to myself, and it was like a slow growth. It wasn't one of those magic overnight growths, right? But I was doing it because, like many spiritual people, I would get a lot of insights. I would get a lot of messages. And as a projector in human design, like I had no one to tell any of these ideas to. And so I would just talk, and that was my TikTok. I was basically talking to myself. And eventually it caught on. But what it was doing, now that I look back, right, it's like, that joke about an overnight success, it only takes like 10 years to make that person. I was already doing the skills and that internal alignment, and also working with the fears that come up, because it is kind of scary when you're putting yourself out there and you're kind of putting crazy spiritual ideas out there. One of my best performing videos was about the mothership landing on TikTok. I haven't posted on Instagram yet, but I was like, I almost went back and deleted that video because I'm like, people are gonna see this and be like, this woman is crazy. But then it went to like 1 million, 2 million, 3. It was just like, I think it was my first viral video. I was like, what the heck? And everyone's in the comments like, oh, well, are the aliens going to pay my bills? Just like ridiculous stuff. But some people are like, yeah, they've always been here. And it was just such an interesting experience because I had like cold sweat posting that and not deleting it. But when I look back, that helped me. And other videos like that, which didn't go viral, by the way, but other videos like that helped me to really gain the strength that I think spiritual people are called for right now. Because if spiritual people are meant to lead, which they are, because we're moving into this era of like intense spirituality, right? People are going to experience so much change that they won't know. They'll be deeply troubled, right? And spiritual people are really the ones best poised to come in and say, well, actually, like this is what's happening. And I do have some solutions for you. It's probably called shadow work. It's probably called energy healing, right? All of these modalities. Every time I just look at the news and all this stuff, I just think, wow, why are there not more spiritual healers and entrepreneurs coming in and kind of offering their gifts for what's going on in the world right now? And I think a lot of that is spiritual people need to just like grow a pair, just show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that seems to be what you're saying with fire horse energy. It's like, hey, let's now light a fire under this. Like you've been gaining your skills, you've been building something in the background, you've been practicing the way that you talk about things or show up. Now let's see it. Let's see the results. And I think it's interesting because talk about the wild stallion energy, but there's also the element of fire, which is so important here. And I kind of want to dig into that too, because
Yeah.
fire, I mean, it can be illuminating, it can be like a candle and gentle, but it can also be a wildfire and in good and destructive ways.
Absolutely. And that's brilliant because what you said about fire being illuminating, this is really the time of transparency. And the spiritual role of fire is really that purification where it burns away all that is false. And so, like, and no one is exempt. Okay. So everyone's getting the same treatment. And it kind of goes deep too, because the things that are false that we hold are our fears that we're not good enough, our fears that if we do certain things, then we might get punished or whatever it is. And it's really, but yeah, the external world, people are going to troll you, whatever, it's things happen. But the fear that you hold on the inside, it's not true. And so in the year where we're surrounded by the element of fire, it's not true because we're divine beings, right? And we all like we have a full cup, right? We don't need to. I know there's a whole question of are people more valuable because of, their citizenship or whatever, and it's like insane. But the reason why it's being brought to a lot of people's consciousnesses is because some people have this like deep fear of not belonging or deep fear that they're not enough or whatever it is. And because fire wants to purify all falseness, and that is falseness, we are all worthy, right? It will unfortunately bring you lots of situations where you need to meet that fear and overcome it, heal it, or at least claim your decision that even though maybe the world is telling you that you don't belong or that you're not worthy or that it's a dangerous place, you need to claim your decision that you choose your own safety, right? That you choose your own value. And I think that's where a lot of this energy, if I'm sensing into it, it's really moving us to claim that strength and that sovereignty. And fire is a way to do it. It's not like my preferred, I don't think anyone would prefer this, right? But really now it's a time of being forged by fire, and in the illumination sense that you brought, like really purifying all the things that we aren't, you know?
Yeah. And it's interesting because at the start of the episode, you were like, I'm already feeling it. And I'm definitely feeling what you're saying too. I've had fears around writing, for instance, but I'm finding that now it's becoming easier than ever to write and words are just like flowing through me. And it's something that has
Well, why is that? Did you make a decision to do it?
I felt it coming for a while, for several months. I was like, I think there's something that wants to come through. I was hesitant to put pen to paper because when I think of writing, it feels like I have to do it. It feels like a to-do list item. But in the last couple of weeks, I've changed my mindset around it and been like, actually, what if I let the words flow through me? What if it's not from me and I'm just a vessel for this? And then suddenly it was like, and they just came through and it's felt really, really good, really aligned. Part of
Yes.
that is the shadow work you mentioned too. I had to confront the fears around writing. What does that mean? What does that make me? And so I think it's interesting that we can already be feeling this before the fire horse energy year officially starts.
Yeah. Well, it's been the fire element for a while. And in Chinese feng shui astrology, which is very niche, it's been the fire element for over a year now. And it will be for the next, 18, 19 years. So it's not letting down anytime soon.
Okay. And then do you think, I mean, I know the year technically starts on February 17th. Is it just going to be all fire all the time? Are there going to be fluctuations? How do you see like the energetic side of this panning out?
The thing about fire is it's one of its natures is it's uncontrollable and unpredictable, right? And so it'll go here and then it'll, explode and then it might trickle over here and then burn out. And so there's like a whole complex system where people are kind of predicting maybe certain places. And the US is definitely one of those places, right, where there's going to experience a lot of almost like, revolution, like around this, like, the same time that I think Neptune was in Aries, like there was like the American Revolution or something like there's a lot of stuff that's signifying some sort of revolution, rebellion, uprising. And we're seeing that in a lot of the cities who are kind of, standing in solidarity with Minneapolis. And so that's going to exacerbate. It's already begun and it's going to exacerbate because this is a period of change. And I think the important thing for your listeners to know is that as long as you plan for that, which I don't know, like it's funny to say like plan for change, plan for disruption, but I think it's more like a mentally plan for it and like do what you need to do to feel safe during times of change and to be able to pivot your content. Like I taught a class about how to harness this fire era energy, and a big part of it is like you need to be able to pivot on a dime. So when my Instagram blew up, right? And I had like no posts, but it just blew up. I was like, okay, I need to take advantage of this energy. And so I didn't, and it was right during school vacation. I had no time. I really was so tired. I didn't make any new content, but I reposted content that I had. And then I had this class that I taught that I put on flash sale, right? And it was like things that I could do like kind of behind the scenes to take advantage of the fire that kind of exploded. And so we need to have that mindset where it might be less of a every month is going to be like this and more of like seeing where the attention goes on your offerings and then like really pushing your energy behind where you're seeing the virality, right?
Yeah, I'm finding the way that's translating in my marketing brain for people is like you might not have a content plan that works out well, but you might need to be reactive and follow your intuition with anything that's coming through in that fiery
Yes.
nature.
Beautiful. And what's going through in the world. Because if we think Minneapolis was, and it is a big thing, I don't want to minimize that. It's like we're going through this big struggle. A lot of people don't feel safe. I have to carry around a passport now because I look like me. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. So I don't want to minimize that. But it's your responsibility to also respond to the fires that are happening in the world and not be like, well, I know like there's stuff going on, but we want to just talk about yoga or whatever it is. Like
Yeah.
there's a connection to the external fire energy as well.
Yeah. And I know that we've talked about Minneapolis changes. I know we're seeing like geopolitical tensions rise up. What are other collective themes that you're sensing for this next year?
The job sector is going to continue to be very shaky. And these sectors where it's like these like corporations that have establishment, even like higher education, like it was like almost as secure as a government job, and we know those government jobs are. And so for people to see employment and economics and also currency, some of my astrologer friends are saying that in 2027, there's going to be a huge financial, not collapse, like it's not, but financial shifts, right? And so anything that's a shift, a change, that obviously affects the market. And so when we think about people, and I love that you're thinking about it from a marketing perspective, think about your consumer, think about your buyer. They're in this place where there's a lot of change, a lot of flux, and they're like, can I afford to invest in myself? Well,
Yeah.
then that's where you kind of have to come in the conversation and say, actually, this is probably one of the most important times. I signed myself up for, I have an herbalist appointment later this afternoon. Like, I know fire energy is going to burn me up.
Yeah.
And I just know it. I can feel it. I already felt it in January. So I'm setting myself for as many preventative things as I can. But it would have been great if I saw more herbalists or acupuncturists or healers talking about it, right? And talking about how they are adapting their service for this energy. That would have been really cool. I don't know if that answers your question. That's my like mini rant. I'm so sad when I don't see healers taking advantage of this energy because it's like your people need you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people need so many other people's gifts, whether it's healing, whether it's healing through business modalities, is like what I like to call them, right? Sometimes it's not putting my hands on you from a Reiki perspective, but it's looking at something with a different perspective and moving through it with a bit more grace or flexibility.
Yes. And so, whatever it is that your business is, you need to find your relevancy in the collapse of the world. And you need to give people a really good reason to invest in themselves when the natural reaction is like, I'm just going to hunker down and not buy anything and not grow. And, what's the point anyway? Right. So, there's definitely people investing. There's definitely people buying. There's definitely people, there is a market for that, but don't kind of isolate yourself into a bubble. And then people are like, oh, clearly they don't know what's going on and they don't care. And their offerings clearly aren't, relevant anymore.
Yeah, completely. And I have to dig into the currency piece because it's something that I'm deeply interested in. I know you have a background in economics. We both worked in tech. I worked in fintech for quite a long time. So
Oh,
I
fintech, fascinating. Yeah.
so
What do
I
you
need to
think is
go
going to
there.
happen?
I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing restructuring already happen. We're seeing a lot of corporate companies start to adopt stable coins and look at new financial infrastructure because we're kind of on an archaic system right now. And so, I mean, if I were to predict, I'd say the fire horse energy is probably going to come through and say, okay, all these archaic things are broken and old.
Yes. And, like even Swift transfers, like across countries, is slow and expensive and it takes days. And like, what the heck? Like Western Union, why don't you just use a blockchain, right? And so, like, what was it? The New York Stock Exchange is going to basically be on a blockchain. They applied for it, it hasn't been approved. State Street Bank is moving towards blockchain technology. A lot of international banks are. So whether or not, I know that I receive messages sometimes about how evil crypto is and how bad it is for the environment, all that stuff. I understand. I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's just, like you said, that's just where everything's going, right?
Yeah. And I think there's so much variability in that space. There are blockchains and cryptocurrencies that are safer or require less energy. Obviously, there's a ton of spam. This is not an episode giving you financial advice, but I mean, our world is more digitized than ever. And so we need a system that can keep up with that.
Yes, they're gonna tokenize mutual funds and stuff, like
Crazy. Well, before
crazy.
this goes too deep into a currency and economics episode, I want to come
But
back.
guys, prepare yourself for this, okay? Just know that it's coming. Do whatever research. Just don't ignore it. Even if you don't agree with it, even if you hate it, I understand. At least read up on it so that like your kids have a chance, so that you have an idea. Don't hide in a hole right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Ugh, I think anything else that you want to share when it comes to fire horse energy, and especially this piece around, feeling close to burnout, because I think that will be common too.
Yes, and it's really interesting because let's say you have a lot of fire, like let's say you're a fire sign or you just have a lot of fire in your system, you're gonna feel like really excited, okay? But you're probably the most likely to burn out because you're gonna be like burning this huge flame without any grounding because the energy is not like last year was more, shedding it was a wood snake. So last year was like shedding your skin, really examining who you are and like what to keep. This year, just like, it's like, I don't know, death metal at a level 10. So for everybody, but especially if you have fire energy, you need to ground yourself and be around water, go swimming in the summer, just really check in with your intuition. If you're more of like a water sign, fire can transform water. So know that you're probably going to go through a year of transformation. Air and fire are very compatible and they kind of like feed off one another. So it's definitely like a co-creation energy. And so just be aware of more inspiration, whatever. I'm like a lot of earth or wood. So I am gonna get burnt. Like I am one of the like it's just fire burns wood, right? It's like not great, which is why I took my self-care very seriously. Like very ser I'm gonna take it very seriously because I know I'm very prone to that. So just know what your speed is. If you're like me, my animal is an ox in Chinese astrology. You can just Google it. I move very slow, so I'm like the antithesis of fire horse, and so there's going to be a lot of and you can look up what your astrology is compared to the fire horse. It's really interesting. But even for me, then I know that I'm aware of that. So I know that some places I need to move a little bit more faster, a little quicker than what I'm comfortable with, but also stay grounded. So everyone needs to stay grounded. If you're a slower energy, you need to push yourself to move a little faster, a little bit, like not overthink. And then if you're already like super fast, you actually need to like slow down and check in with yourself more.
So interesting. And I love that you covered the different signs. I'm someone with an earth sun sign. I'm a Capricorn, but I have water, right, Cancer rising, and then I have an Aries moon. And it's funny because I've felt the friction of the earth and fire already. Like sometimes I'm like, "Ah, I have this idea and I want to make it happen tomorrow." But then my earth sign is like, wait, 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 let's do this right. And so I can see
Yes.
that battle happening.
It's so interesting and so frustrating, right? But you really like learn your intuition in a different way now. You really have to, hone in on your intuition in a way that maybe you didn't have to before.
Mhm. Yeah, completely. Anything else that you want to share with Fire Horse Energy coming up?
I really think one of the most important things for people to know is that, and I think spiritual entrepreneurs will get it, we'll see a lot more change and chaos and collapse of these structures that you mentioned that were long outdated and needed to be upgraded, right? But we're kind of in the sort of beginning phases of that. So it's going to feel really chaotic. And there might be periods where you're just like, why am I here? What can I do? I know some really high, these are, like 7, 8, 9 figure coaches. These are people that we kind of know, and they're shutting down their programs that they've run for years because it's not working for them anymore, right? And so they're pivoting their business model. And so I really think that you need to be very clear and look at in your business what just feels old and outdated and heavy for you, or what isn't just generating any sparks, like what people just not interested in. And you got to just try new things. You have to just pivot because that energy is going to help you find alignment and it's going to actually put you in the energy of fire, which is like rapid change. And so you need to kind of be comfortable with change. And a lot of us, especially with businesses, it's like, like I need to build a whole funnel around the thing, like how am I going to change? Test out your ideas, use social media. Social media, by the way, is a fire energy. Anything digital and visual and your branding is really fire energy. So I'm not saying you have to have a perfect brand. Like I don't, brand colors and all that stuff. But like you need to really work on any visibility blocks that you have because fire horse energy is all about being seen and there's no more hiding behind carousels and whatever. It's like you got to be seen, right? Like we're doing this on video, like Samantha's really good at being seen. Like you need to be seen and probably across platforms. Like this is the year to do it because you could get the most momentum, the most leverage this year.
I love that. I think you just sold my branding program for me, so appreciate that.
Nice.
You need to articulate yourself, figure out how you show up, how do you share your message? Like you were saying before, what is that relevance piece, really understanding your audience. So I think all of that is so, so important.
Yeah, work on that now. And I know like so many people listening, watching, they're like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to do that because I've had this intuitive hit for 2 years. And it's like, yeah, just do it. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? Hire a
Yeah.
professional, like that's always helpful. Just do it.
Yeah. And making sure it's authentic too. This is a great segue because we've been talking so much about what's ahead, what's coming, how to prepare for it. And what I've also noticed is that there's a lot of past life gifts and skills kind of coming online. And so I want to dig in there for a little bit because I know that this is something that you've talked about widely on your platforms as well. So, you know, when I think about it, it's like things that you're familiar with resurfacing, but how do you explain this to people who might be skeptical of the past life concept?
I would ask them the question, remember the times when you were in school, like high school, college, university, whatever, or even, as an adult, you're just taking classes, right? Have you ever been in a school setting or you're taking a class and you're like, wait a second, I could teach this class. And you're like, wait, the teacher, what they're teaching, it's kind of not right. And but you've never taken that class before, right? Maybe it's creative writing, wait, maybe it's mathematics, maybe it's a research, maybe it's an AI class. And you just kind of get this natural, and you kind of become this like A student, not because of your hard work, your ethics, your attendance, like how much you study, but just because you just kind of know and vibe with the material, and then everyone's like, oh, it's that person, of course you're just naturally good at it, right? Or even sports, right? You're just naturally gifted in something. I think a lot of that actually is past life memory coming back online. Because in my experience with the Akashic records and just like my personal experience, when we come into this lifetime with interests, with special interests, they're usually from kind of these open loops from past lives, because a lot of times we go to multiple lifetimes learning different aspects of a thing, right? So someone could be, for example, a scientist in like many lives, and they just kind of continue to work on their thing, right? So I think that when you realize that you're really good at something randomly without having to work necessarily very hard at it, that could be a sign of past life gifts returning.
Mm. Do you have any past life gifts that are coming online now?
Oh, that's a good. I've actually never thought of that, Samantha. You got to tell me if you have any past life gifts, because I'm trying to think of, for me, I feel like the way that I see the world that I was always criticized for, like I see the world in terms of energy and I see the world in terms of what is like active, so, and you know this, like helping people with their branding and their marketing and stuff. It's like, you kind of have a sense of what's aligned for them. You have a sense of like what, when they say something, it's like, versus, oh yeah, say it that way. And so that's similar to how I see the world. And I've also been very connected to the heart and speaking from the heart, but would never do it because that wasn't the energy that we're in. And people were like, can you just talk faster? And so I feel like my natural tendencies now are finally like aligning with where society is moving to, which is more connecting with intuition and the heart and speaking truth and really understanding what's aligned with you. So I don't know if that counts as a, it's like almost like who I am now feels like it's acceptable. Like it feels like it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think speaking from the heart is something that people think they can do, but it's actually so difficult. And there are many reasons why it can be difficult, but I think, yes, that is a skill. That's something that needs to be practiced or sometimes relearned throughout your life based on circumstances.
Yeah, most people, myself included, have a huge wall like protecting our heart and protecting our honest observations that we would never say. And so we've just built this kind of like polite society that's not really polite and it's not really honest and it's not really truthful. And for people who are more neurodivergent, who have gotten in trouble, speaking the truth, it really is that time where you have to speak the truth, where, like your ability to see past the bullshit and all that stuff, like that's really relevant for even stuff like social media right now, right? For communications right now to cut through all of the AI stuff. And so you're right, speaking from the heart is not, it's not simple. because you have to rewire almost the entire way that you see the world. And this is the interesting thing. Like when I sit in my heart is always like, Anna, it's okay. And then my brain freaks out because it's like, it's not okay. How could this be okay? Right. And then I jump back into the story, but our heart is always tapped into the truth. It always knows for us, what is the best path. And for some people, sitting in that stillness, sitting in that love, and for me sometimes, it's kind of scary. It's unnerving.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes we learn that the head can actually be a safer place. And then so we get comfortable there and then uncomfortable in the heart space. And it's interesting to chat through because I think there are so many other past life gifts that I'm seeing come up for other people. And there's such a wide variety. I know you talked about certain subjects or topics. I've had guests like Deborah Silverman, who's an astrologist, and she was like, I just knew astrology. Like when I learned it, I recognized it in a way. It felt really familiar.
I know people who've never had to study it. And they're like in their 20s and they're like, oh, you just your moon, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, this is definitely past life, right? Like it's inexplicable.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, writing tends to be a past life thing. I feel like writing has always come easy, and then also been really enjoyable.
Mm.
It's something that I gravitate to. So maybe that's why it's coming
Mm.
up for me
There
now. I
you
don't know.
go. Yes. So where do you write?
Right here at my desk, typically, or outside. But I like to write with pen and paper because I feel like I can intuitively hear what's coming through and then record it.
Oh, interesting. Oh, and then I mean, is there a place to read your writing or do you turn your writing into videos or content?
Right now, my writing is just for me. I do plan on releasing more on Substack, and that will be the place that I put a
Mm,
lot out. But I've been in this phase of just like coming back to my writing voice after spending so much time in my marketing voice. For years, I think sometimes
yeah.
that can pull us away from our creative center. So that's what I'm coming back to.
And marketing, I'm sure you can speak a lot on this, but marketing is changing so much. And I mean, I can only imagine how much it's changed so much just in the past year, just from what I've noticed, right? Do you have any thoughts on where marketing is shifting or in terms of like people marketing their own services? Have you noticed anything, from your professional perspective? Have you noticed any shifts?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. I think there's more of an emphasis on authenticity than ever. And I know that word gets tossed around, but it's like, what is your real voice as if you were talking to a friend? Like, how can you use that when you speak to your audience? I think what you were saying before, like you were using TikTok as a way to talk to yourself. I think that's such a core part of creativity is that sometimes you're not writing for masses, you're writing for yourself. So for creators, I think that's going to be
Yeah,
important. And then I
yeah.
think another big thing that I'm sensing is just like letting stuff intuitively come through. And I saw this video of the CEO of NVIDIA, and he was asked, who is the smartest person to you? And he said, that's changing because of AI. Like historically, we've always thought of software developers as some of the smartest people around. They've been the first to be replaced by AI. So I actually think it's going to be people who are leading with empathy and intuition. And I think that that's going to play a huge role in marketing.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. Like we rewarded software developers, right? Because they really shape how we see the world through the algorithm and all of this technology, and they're being replaced by AI. I don't mean it's just kind of interesting. It's like you literally could be like on top of the world and then like, nobody wants to hire. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. And I think the empathetic and authentic pieces become really, really important because of AI. Like we've seen AI slop just completely explode over the last year. So copywriting, owning your voice, understanding the nuances of your voice and what that is become your ways to stand out. And I think that's why I've been writing so much too is how can I reclaim that creative voice and let that come through instead of the marketing speak, the buzzwords, and even SEO to a degree.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You have to pursue the pursue your creativity, and I think that will enable for this new era of marketing, your new voice, like this new ability to connect with people in different ways. Because yeah, people want real people now. People want someone who knows how to even so it's knows how to speak like a real person. And it's so funny because we almost have to relearn how to speak like a real person, you know? And I like reading AI drives me nuts because I feel like I'm thinking like AI, you know, like ChatGPT now, and it's I don't like it.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, if you think about humans, we're so resilient and adaptable. So we've very quickly been able to recognize the signals of what is AI generated. And so I know that will be more difficult over time as AI gets smarter, but I think reconnecting to our human parts will show us the way forward in all aspects, marketing included.
Yes, completely agree with that. And that authenticity piece is also like a fire era piece. It's really, really, really being honest with yourself and looking at this kind of like person that you really aren't and you've kind of grown out of, or it's like, are you still trying to be like this other version of yourself? And it's getting really authentic to who you really are. And that's an ongoing thing. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. But we will be shown, we will be shown what we are not. And then we will have to make the decision, you know, do I just bare myself to the world? Do I just accept myself for this person that I've been trying to run away from my whole life, but just accept it? Like that feels sometimes not good because I'm imperfect and all that stuff. And, you know, a lot of times that is the path to authenticity is just being honest.
Yeah, and you said something earlier too, like fire, we need to burn away the fears and the stuff holding us back. And now we're really speaking to the things that hold people back, which is, I know perfectionism is huge. They want to look good online. They're afraid of judgment. I think sometimes people are afraid of showing different parts of themselves because they are afraid they're going to be like removed from their tribe or certain people will reject them. So, practically, how do you think people can burn through some of these shadow aspects?
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so practically, I did a class and I basically was like, you guys need to post videos. That is the thing that gets people to trust you the fastest. And it's really what you should optimize. Because then you can, you know, write and do other things, but people really are scrolling looking for videos. And so immediately someone was like, but what if I get negative comments or what if people say something bad about me or, you know, so everyone was kind of sharing all of these fears that were coming up that were clearly keeping them from doing the thing. And so it's really important to know that what your fears are, because usually people have a very specific flavor of fear. And for this person, it was specifically mean comments, which I can understand. But for some people, it's like way more triggering than other people.
Yeah.
And so if you're really honest with what's stopping you and what that deep fear is, and you can really look at it and ask yourself, why would I be scared if some internet stranger said that I looked crazy or said that I, you know, and I've been called lots of names and all this stuff, right? And sometimes it's really upsetting, sometimes it's not, right? But when it is upsetting, I do the same thing where I ask, like, why, what part of me is feeling this way? What part of me feels angry? And usually that it's always fear. What part of me is scared that there are people saying these comments about me? And I really let that part of me express itself, herself. And usually it's something like, I'm scared for my safety. I'm scared. What if like someone does something bad or, you know, does, you know, something bad to my account or whatever it is, right? It's like all these things. And then I just kind of go and I really connect with that part and I go, oh, but you know, we're in charge of our own safety. I'm going to make sure that we're safe. And I'm going to make sure that I, you know, do whatever work that needs to happen for you to feel safe. Sometimes people actually need to do something to feel safe. But for me, it's always been about owning my own safety. And the crazy thing is, I don't really get as many negative comments as some people do. And I do think in a spiritual world, it is a reflection of our deepest fears are being reflected back on us now. My deepest fear is not getting negative comments, okay? But for some people it is. I'm so sorry, you're probably going to get a lot of negative comments. Like it's not, you know, it's just it's life showing you that you are sovereign if you choose. And but it really there's really no choice. You have to choose to be
Mhm.
sovereign. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that a hopeful thing maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something powerful there. It's like sitting with the different parts that are getting triggered or feeling a little shaky. I'm curious, what is your biggest fear?
Oh, my biggest fear, that's a great question. So let me tell you what's not, which I think kind of is a helpful thing to say. I'm not afraid of losing my social media accounts because TikTok has always been like, oh, we're being sold. Oh, TikTok. So I have so many more followers on TikTok than on Instagram, and I'm like, I've been preparing myself that I'm just going to lose it. And I've had friends who have spiritual accounts who got banned at 600,000, almost a million followers. Can you imagine? And they just got lost their account overnight. So I'm actually not afraid of losing any of my accounts because I know the resilience that I have from doing all that work. I just do it again if I wanted to, right? Or I could channel it into something else. I don't know, baking or something, right? So like for me, that's actually not my fear, even though most of my business comes from social media right now. For me, I think my biggest fear is that I'll never, and maybe you can relate to this, Samantha, as a creative. It's like I feel like I'll never like find like my masterpiece, the thing that I was here to create. And for some reason I missed out on it, or something like that. So I think that's my biggest fear is like I didn't get to express myself creatively to the extent that would have satisfied me, fulfilled me.
Yeah, that's huge.
What about you?
I mean, as you say it, I recognize that. I'm like, yeah, me too. That's a huge fear of mine because I think when I think about life, like I wouldn't want to be on my deathbed and be like, oh, I never wrote that book or I never learned the big lesson that I was supposed to learn in this lifetime. I mean, yeah, that feels like probably one of my biggest fears.
It's a big thing, and I think that's why people need to create, because when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, imagine. Oh, I think specifically my thing is like I didn't push it enough. Like maybe I did publish a book, but maybe I really had another book, and maybe I didn't, so it's always that little, like, did I push it enough? So we need to put it out there. Our intuition's telling us we just need to, and we do it for ourselves. My content is different than I think a lot of people's content because I really do it for myself, but I make it relevant for people watching just as a courtesy.
Yeah. And I think that comes through like your experience, your practice of that slow growth before your recent explosion shows because the way that you talk to people is relevant. It feels like you're sitting, next to you in the car and you're a friend and you're explaining something that could be complex or esoteric and it feels really grounded.
It's definitely just what I had time for. Most of it is in the car, most of it's in the driveway of my kids' daycare because that's when I had the time. And so really nobody has an excuse, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as we wrap up this episode, I always ask all of my guests, do you have a confession? Because this is Confessions of a Spiritual Entrepreneur. It could be anything that you want to share with our
Gosh.
audience.
I basically have no certification in anything except for Reiki. I have a lot of expertise and practice and decades of experience and lots of people who said this was life changing, but I don't have a certification on it. Why do I have this like viral video on basically astrology and but I'm not an astrologer and like class that I sold tens of thousands of and it's not I'm not an astrologer. Like it's just maybe that's a past life thing too. But yeah, I don't have a coaching I've been coaching for almost 20 years now. I don't have a coaching certification. I mean, I tell people, right? Like it's just not my thing.
Yeah, love it. Again, I think that ties so many things today, like the passion, when you feel really motivated by something, when you have natural skills and talents, it's like follow that. Sometimes you don't need the stamp of approval. And maybe we're entering an era where that stamp of approval is going to be less desired or required.
For me, I knew I did research all the schools and all that stuff and all the certifications, and I felt so restricted and confined. And I just felt like, it just wasn't for me. And there was like a rawness in learning through life that has really interested me and feels much more direct. And I didn't know this at the time because I thought I was just being lazy, right? But I was really honing my intuition and I was really pulling from a different source. But of course, I continue to read and to grow and to do other things. And so I think for people who have true passion for what they do, and I know this is your listeners, as long as you can be really honest with yourself, like, am I being the best? Am I doing my best to learn what I need to learn, to be the best coach that I can be, to be the best, spiritual guide that I can be, or whatever it is? because sometimes like that raw gift and being able to see things in a different perspective makes you more of an expert in some sense than the experts.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's
absolutely.
me, but
No, I think that will resonate with so many people. And Anna, I have adored this conversation. It's been so fun to chat with you. Where can our listeners find you and learn more about you?
time just flew by. Oh my gosh, I feel like we would talk forever.
I know.
You can find me on Instagram. It's Ms. Anna Tsui. And then also I give away half my book for free. You can just download it. And that's my website, Anna Tsui, ANNATSUI.com/book, if you're interested.
Amazing. Anna, thank you so much. We will add those links to the show notes as well. And with that, we will catch you next time. As we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with this, right? All of this is context and information to help you on your journey. So if you're really running into things and wondering why something feels harder, easier, more urgent, less urgent, listen to that, right? Because the fire horse energy that we've been talking about throughout this episode, it might feel activating, but this really is your invitation to work with it, right? How do you ride that stallion? How do you balance energies so that you don't get burnout? And how do you move with deep intention instead of force? Because I think that is really going to be everyone's superpower moving forward. So, if this conversation resonated, I am so glad. Please leave a rating or review. They go such a long way in helping this show reach more people. If you are new here, please subscribe to the show so you don't miss future conversations like this. Thank you so much to Anna for being here, for sharing her wisdom and her knowledge with us in a way that feels really usable and honest. And thank you for listening. I am your host, Samantha Fackler. You can find me on Instagram at samantha.fackler. And with that, I will catch you next time.